If you've got a great idea for a children's book, but you're struggling to turn it into a story that works, by the end of this video, you will have a simple 5-step process to go from idea to a story that works. I've seen it so many times. Someone has a great idea, but then when they try to turn it into a manuscript, they just cannot get it to work. That is because an idea on its own doesn't show you what happens or how the tension builds or what change the character undergoes. What you really need isn't a better idea or more brainstorming, it's structure. Once you find the structure of the story, then it finally clicks. A great idea is not a story. That might feel discouraging at first, but once you embrace it, it actually sets you up to finish and strengthen your manuscripts. An idea is like a seed. It holds potential and it can grow, but it won't grow on its own. It needs the right conditions to grow, like soil and water and time and care. So what gives an idea life is the story that you build around it. This is where many writers get stuck. They have an idea or many ideas that they love, like a cloud who wants to be a painter or a squirrel who's afraid of trees, but then they have no clear sense of what drives the story forward or how it builds. Now, turning an idea into a story means asking questions like, what is the theme of the story and what changes from the first page to the last? Or what emotional journey do I want the reader to take? Does the story get the reader to feel something? These types of questions give your story shape. Picture books don't need to follow a strict formula, but they do need structure and movement and contrast in the language and in the plot. So when those elements are missing, the idea tends to go nowhere, even if it's intriguing or funny, but without that story arc that changes, even the most brilliant concepts cannot get off the ground. So, you have this seed, this idea, now what? There is a simple process that you can use to go from idea to a story that works. And it has 5 steps, and I want you to stay with me through all of them because step 2 is one that most writers skip ahead on, and that one changes a lot. And then some of the later steps, of course, are also very important. So step 1, start with your idea. Let's say your idea is a squirrel that's afraid of trees. It's quirky and fun, but it's really just a concept. So then step 2 is to ask, what is this story really about? You need to know what the theme of your book is. Is it a story about facing fears or feeling out of place or wanting to belong? And then let's say you decide it's about finding courage in unexpected ways. That makes it something concrete. So it's about overcoming scary or difficult things. And then step 3 is to give it change or movement. So what changes from beginning to end? Maybe the squirrel tries and fails to climb, he hides in embarrassment, he meets a monkey who teaches him balance, and finally he takes a leap. Now, these events are what move your story forward. Now, you can work it out as a simple progression with a beginning, where he's afraid and hiding, middle, where he experiments and he maybe stumbles, he meets a helper, and at the end he climbs or he chooses not to climb, but he feels proud either way. All right, step 4. Incorporate contrast and rhythm. So think about whether your story moves through different emotions and energy levels. You need some moments of calm and some high energy. That variation is what takes the reader on a journey. And step 5 is to circle back to the theme. Does the ending reflect what the story is really about? If you go back to the theme of courage that we chose, for instance, the ending doesn't have to be that the squirrel succeeds, but there has to be growth. So, as I said, maybe he doesn't climb the tallest tree, but he tries. And that growth is what makes readers relate to your character and to your story. So this approach works whether you're plotting from scratch or revising a manuscript that is just not working. When you focus on theme and movement and contrast and rhythm, then your idea starts to grow and bloom. Now, getting the structure of the story in place is a big first step, and then comes the work of making it actually take us on a relatable journey. I covered that in issue 2 of the KidLit Creators Chronicle, how to structure a picture book plot that works. I will link to that in the description below. Often, we treat our idea like it's the prize, but the story is the prize. Clinging too tightly to your idea can actually stop you from creating a workable story at all, because you may protect the idea instead of developing it. It's easy to resist reworking the idea if you get too attached to it. But often, or usually, the first version of your idea needs to be refined to get it to a workable and a wonderful story. So the next time you get stuck, ask yourself if you're trying to create the best story you can, or if maybe you're clinging too tightly to the initial idea. That change from this is a cool concept to this is really a story worth telling often starts by letting go even a little bit of the exact original idea and trusting yourself to make something better. Now, let's look at some classic picture books and see how they don't just rely on a clever idea, but create a wonderful story around the idea. So, Knuffle Bunny by Willems. The idea is a toddler loses her favorite toy. That's really just a moment or a concept, right? But that is the idea, but it's not a full story. The story is Trixie's walk to the laundromat. It's full of tension and relatable frustration about miscommunication and her big feelings. The way the author developed the emotional arc is what makes it a great book, not just the idea. Another great one is The Gruffalo by Julia Donaldson. The idea is a mouse that invents a monster to scare off predators. The story, though, is with repetition and rising tension. There's a twist. The mouse's quick thinking, which is tested again and again, and every encounter builds the stakes, which leads to the clever ending. So sometimes when I see someone with a great idea without direction, it can all come together if we stop asking, how can I make this idea work? And start asking, what is this really about? Because having that clarity about your theme and knowing how to structure a story around it means you can bring your idea to life. All right, over to you. Has this helped you to see ways in which you can improve your idea? Comment below and let me know. I always love hearing what is clicking for you or how this might have helped you. Wherever you are in your picture book process, I hope this helped you to see your idea with fresh eyes. So, if you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe for more practical guidance on writing and publishing and marketing your children's books. And if you're not already getting the KidLit Creators Chronicle, which is my free guide for children's book authors, in your inbox every week, then the link to sign up for that is in the description below.